Come in, welcome. What's that? No, you haven't missed anything. They're just about to start. Buffalo sports, of course. Everything. Bills, Sabres, Buttes, No, it's not very... Well, they certainly think they're funny. Listen, let me pour you a drink. Have a seat and lend an ear. You'll hear tales of sorrow and despair, endless droughts and infamous tanks, and things Mike doesn't like. Please, join us.
We are here recording this here 716 Sports Podcast episode. It is 10:16 on Monday, February 18, and ladies and gentlemen, I am officially here to proclaim that the Buffalo Sabres playoff chances are dead. This team, dead in the water, passed by a Flyers team that started 8 goaltenders this year, playing uninspired outside of a streak. People hating on Jack Eichel, people hating on everything. The defense is a mess. Sabaka's getting third-line minutes. I have lost hope. Someone tell me I'm wrong.
Wait, the Sabres have just gotten passed by a team that has started how many goaltenders?
8 goaltenders, an NHL record.
8.
8 different starting goaltenders this year.
And it's only the middle of February.
It's only the middle of February. They might get a ninth one.
Still got 2 months to go, yeah.
Lots of time left.
Yeah, so this is something that I thought I'd never say. Kind of agreed with Mike Harrington's questioning in the postgame when he asked Sam Reinhart if he thought that they were toast. Yeah, they are. And I know that you're not allowed as a player to ever say that, but there is no positive momentum. This is tied with the Senators for the worst team in the league since the streak. They don't perform for 60 minutes ever for one reason or another. They rarely are getting around to 40 minutes. If they have possession, the puck's not going in. If they don't have possession, defenders are letting everybody slip by them. It's just not a well-coached team. I think it's pretty obvious at this point. To me, coaching is the big issue.
Why are we so afraid as an organization at this point, if we agree that it's Housley, to move on from Phil Housley? We have the Flyers, not to beat that horse to death, they fired their coach a little while ago, and suddenly they go on a big winning streak and pass the Sabres. The Montreal Canadiens were in first place in the conference a couple years ago and fired their coach. Other teams around us that are making moves are not afraid of a regime change because they want to keep things the same when they're not working. Is Housley the problem? And if Housley's the problem, why are we scared to talk about it?
I mean, hell, look at what Anaheim just did. They fired Carlisle and they brought in Bob Murray, who had never coached in the NHL before. I mean, it's at the point where they've got to do something either to just change the attitude around the team or light a spark in their butts or something.
Well,
I mean, at this point, it doesn't matter which one they do. They've just got to do something. Otherwise, everybody's going to be saying this team is lost during the offseason.
I've been begging the question. Most of this losing trend. The Sabres missed the playoffs from where they were start the season. Do you get rid of Housley? I feel like Steve, you're the one that says no. We like the improvement, but you don't. I don't get what he does. There's no in-game adjustments. He keeps panicking and putting Reinhart back on the top line with Jack and Sam or Jack and
as the season goes on, it becomes more and more obvious that's what's going on.
I don't think there's no way to keep the guy. I think he's a pitiful coach. I know the roster's not great, but I don't see him trying to make the best of what he's got either.
Well, what people are scared about is because you ran the last 3 coaches out so quickly. You had Lindy Ruff, who was an institution, and he lasted for, a decade and a half or whatever it was. Then you have Ron Rolston take over. You fire him. He got 51 games. You do the nostalgia thing. You bring back Ted Nolan. He gets ran out after just under a season and a half after basically being in exile. And then Dan Bylsma, who's a Stanley Cup winning coach, whether or not you think that he was the reason behind that, I think it's become pretty clear now that he wasn't, but he did win a Stanley Cup. You bring him in, you think that he's going to be the guy that unlocks your young talent, and you run him off after 2 years. So now you're faced with a position again where you have a coach that was not the correct hire. He's not very good. What he's doing, he's in over his head. Maybe he will be. He may be a fantastic coach his second time around if he gets a second chance. It's not working. It's pretty clear that it's not working. But because you've already done this 3 straight times, you're now worried. I think the Pujols are concerned about whether or not they can hire a coach that's going to actually want to stay here, or they're going to have to go real unconventional.
I mean,
way.
at this point, their options are change up and worry about that, or keep a coach that wants to play Rasmus Dahlin with Matt Hunwick on a pair. I mean, these are your options at this point. His pairings and lines, and I'm not a huge line guy because you theoretically have 6 to 8 guys on the top of your lineup who are going to contribute in some combination. We just don't have that. But it's getting to the point where I worry that he's going to stifle Dahlin and guys like that who are your young core by playing them with... I was at the Sabres game when Jack started with a Pozo on his wing, and that was, thankfully, a 2-period experiment. But how many more of those experiments with C.J. Smith? We're going to judge C.J. Smith because how he plays with Vladimir Sobotka for 15 minutes a night. We're going to judge Dahlin by how he looks next to Hunwick. We're going to judge Ristolainen by how he looks with Scandella. We are anchoring these players, tying them to the ice, and then hoping that they turn into Superman skating down the ice the other way. I mean, what do we expect from these players, the 5 or 6 players that we talk about as the core group of this team, that they're going to drag this dead weight with them? And maybe that's not entirely Housley's fault. Maybe part of it falls on the building of this team and trying to keep these guys, the Olafsons and Nylanders of the world down in Rochester to stew like Botterill did with Pittsburgh. But in the interim, the product on the ice at the KeyBank Center is suffering heavily and getting worse, it feels like, by the week.
I'm still fine with the player development route. I really am. I guess I was an apologist for the previous GM, and I'm going to be an apologist for this one. But
it's because you look like him, Bill.
yeah, apparently, I've heard it. Botterill just, I don't know. I don't think this is on Botterill. I think he went out and was aggressive. Maybe there's just bad puck luck, and it's all coming in ridiculous streaks where it all was wonderful and everything was working out for the first couple months of the season, and now everything is falling apart. If this is spread out over, and I've heard this question asked, if this is spread out and instead of winning 10 games and then losing whatever, it's been 15 of 20 or whatever, what if instead you just won a couple, lost a couple, won a couple, lost a couple? Well, then things would be more palatable, I think. But because you got 20 points in 10 games, like, you did it. It's there. It's in the record books forever now. Teams like that don't fail to qualify. I think 2 teams out of 19 ever, or something like that, had failed to qualify.
We got what felt like a modern age, like, classic RJ quip. Then when they won that, Skinner got that overtime goal, and we got these guys are good, scary good. Everyone, like, look back to the 05-06 teams where you roll every Sabres highlight video on YouTube and there's RJ going, Mayday, Mayday, and all these classic clips, like, oh man, I can't wait to look back on this moment and remember where I was when I saw this 10th game go into the record books. And that's the last time, or one of the few times since then, that I remember watching a Sabres game and, like, jumping to get back into this room and talk about it. Because since then, every week has been progressively down the other side of the mountain. And you talk about spreading those games out and what it took to get those 20 points in 10 games. It felt like puck luck was the mantra of those games. Puck luck was Tampa Bay not winning that game when they massively outplayed the Sabres but just couldn't put the puck home. Puck luck was winning all those shootouts. Puck luck was Carter Hutton standing on his head for 10 games, it felt like.
He's falling way off now.
Well, he's regressing to the mean. I don't know if he's falling off. He's becoming the goaltender that he has statistically always been his entire career. But when we saw that win streak early in the season, we're like, oh my God, this guy's the second coming of Ryan Miller, basically, in a Sabres jersey because of how well he played coming out of the tunnel. And we sometimes forget that just because a guy has a good start doesn't mean he's going to put up, like, Skinner and Eichel had good starts, and they're having great continuations of that. Carter Hutton was a backup goaltender for a long time, and I think we hoped against hope that maybe he was something that St. Louis missed, but in reality, St. Louis just had Jake Bennington, who's come on and had 4 shutouts already in his first 14 starts.
I mean, are we happy that Allmark seems to be the guy that's taken the crease here? I mean, this seems to now be a 1 and 2 rather than a 1A and a 1B, if you're looking for one.
I think if it's not
moment.
I think if it's not a back-to-back, there's no reason you should start Carter Hutton right now. Allmark is playing out of his mind. He's playing super well.
I mean, this is a team that last night lost to a goaltender that hadn't won in over a calendar year in Corey Schneider. I mean, Schneider was great for New Jersey, but completely fell off, gave the crease away, and then he was sub 900 for his last 30 starts or something like that. I mean, he's been bad. And then you made him look like a world beater last night because they're not getting any opportunities.
Yeah, all the shots. Every single shot was
Shot
from the outside.
selection.
Nothing was really great.
Yeah, if you look at the shot chart, it's basically a U shape from the blue line and the two half boards, and no one seems willing, except for Sam occasionally and maybe Larson and Gergensons on occasion, to park themselves in that hot zone. And it becomes a game of, can we snipe a goaltender from the outside? If we can, we win. If we can't, we lose.
And if
Because
Jack
no
misses
one
the
takes
net-
a shot from inside the faceoff.
It's
box.
80s mentality hockey back when it doesn't work anymore.
And if Jack misses net from out there, there's hell to pay.
If I have to hear one more person tweet about Jack Eichel hitting the side, and then I swear to God.
It's a genuine population of people in Buffalo that think Jack Eichel is a problem on this team.
The problem.
That's what Bill said. Not just a problem.
The
they
problem.
think he's the problem.
The problem.
The only issue I might have with Jack Eichel is sometimes as a captain, his body language can get.
Well, I'm sorry.
Not
That was a
good.
You
pop-up.
unmuted that advertisement, Bill.
I got to figure it out.
So you can see him
Bill's
get frustrated.
first time using a mouse
You can see him get
ever
pissed.
in his life.
Go ahead. Sorry, Justin.
You
We're
can
gonna-
visibly see him get frustrated in games, and that's what you want to see out of your captain, because you thrive off that guy. And as a hockey player, you thrive off your captain, especially a player like Jack Eichel. He sets the tone.
I look at the team and I'm like, when things like this happen, when you don't win 2 games in a row for 2 months, one of the options is that you have a talent issue.
Well, there's
That your
definitely
team
huge
is not a
issue.
talent enough. What drives me nuts, and sure, there's a talent issue because the drop-off is so extreme. You go from very, very high-end talent, and then it falls off a cliff very quickly. But that being said, I don't buy that the Sabres are not more talented than Carolina, or not more talented than, some of the Columbus or the teams they're chasing. That might be a bit of a stretch, but like if you look at the top 6 for the Sabres, if it was the top 6 that we want them to play every night, and you compare it to the top 6 of these other teams, they should be better than them. And they're not. So then what is the issue? I don't know what it is.
Well, I think
but
the issue is not just the top 6. The issue is that those teams, we might have a better top 6 than Carolina. We in no way, shape, or form have a better bottom 6 than Carolina.
Right.
And those bottom 6 forwards still play 20 minutes a night, and they beat the shit out of us.
Well, and the bottom 6 forwards, and maybe I'm wrong, this might be a blanket statement that's not right, is the bottom 6 in Carolina is the kids. The bottom 6 in Buffalo is Saboka and Oposo and
Larson and Gergensen.
Who, listen, I've been one of Larson's biggest critics. I've really loved Gergensen and Larson killing penalties, and they have filled a nice little fourth line role. But I'm not convinced that they would be better at it, that they're better at it than young guys. Like, who's to say that someone down in Rochester, not a top tier guy, but who's to say someone in Rochester can't kill penalties as well as they are and skate faster or handle the puck better?
Well, that's the thing I was thinking of too. And then I went and looked up the standings. And if Rochester's going to make a run at the Calder Cup, you don't want to bring up some of their top players now to try to develop them.
Which they're doing and leaving in the press box. BT dubs. But anyways,
Yeah,
sorry.
Housley's choice of who to play when is
leaves
a lot to be desired.
Kind of where you were talking about, where I wanted to go next was like, do you think Botterill's being too patient with a team that needs offense, needs a spark? No, do you think you should bring somebody up?
So Botterill being too patient. As far as bringing somebody up, sure, I'm all for that. Olofsson is phenomenal. I watched him play. Asplund was the fastest player on the ice for each team. That's all fine and dandy. Here's why I'm not absolutely like ripping my face off like some people.
I'm not worried about a trade. I'm talking about bringing somebody up.
But just in general, like Botterill's style, you could be right that they could absolutely bring someone up to inject some life. But that being said, like there was an analyst on GR this morning that talked about how this team may not make the playoffs this year. But there are a whole lot of experts that say for the next decade, this team is going to be very good. Now, at some point, they have to show it. They do. But I'm okay with the patience and, like, I'm okay with Olofsson staying down there. I would be okay with CJ Smith staying down there. You know, if the goal is to win Stanley Cups, that means that the goal does not have to be to make the playoffs in 2019.
That's 100% correct, as much as it sucks.
Yeah, it does.
But that also puts an impetus on what they do next year. That means that next year they have to look at Olofsson and Asplund and Nylander and Housley and all those guys and be like, all right, those of you who are ready,
You have to
they
bring them
had
up
some
and
way
give
they
them
have
a
to pull the
hard
trigger,
look.
or all these guys become Bailey and Baptiste 2.0.
But don't forget also, the currency they have, and this is the same conversation we've had times before. It does feel different to me because you have the guy in Jack, you have Skinner if he sticks around, which he should. But the difference is they have 3 first-round picks, and I'm not even saying they should pick 3 guys, but there are teams that will trade for those. They have the pipeline. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen will be in Rochester next year, and he'll finally be back in the United States, and that's going to be a very good thing. And if Ullmark and Luukkonen going forward are the guys, that could be a very good thing. I do continue to looking beyond the next 2 months, I still continue to be encouraged because I almost inherently trust Botterill. You talk about being a bit of an apologist, Bill.
Yep.
The way he's doing things and watching him do it, I'm here for it. I'm good with the development and the way he's building the team from the bottom up.
It feels like it's a more solid build instead of just trying to win now and not worry about the future.
Speaking of, I hate to bring up the history of our glorious owner of the Buffalo Sabres, but
Terry Pegula, I think 8-year anniversary
Eight years.
today.
Are you going to go to the sole reason? Because you're right.
No, I'm not going to say the sole reason.
'Cause that's
But
right,
What I'm going to
100%.
say. So Jeremy White tweeted this on February 27th, 2011.
Ouch.
And there's a quote that Terry Pegula said to the Buffalo News: "The goal is cup in 3 years, not playoffs this year." That was 8 years ago.
Well, at least they've made some good runs since then.
They have not made the playoffs.
What
and
had
then
happened
also,
was
there's an AP report from February 22nd, 2011. Outside of the starting today, yada yada yada, was that he was talking about panic doesn't seem to work. I borrowed a quote from Steelers president Art Rooney to explain the decision to keep the long-serving pair in place. Speaking of Regier and Ruff, our feeling is you pick good people and you try to stick with them.
The cup was. Are you done? My bad.
There was one other quote I wanted to bring up,
Go
and I
ahead.
wanted to ask anybody if they thought they could name who said it. So here's the quote from a player: "You can just tell how much he wants to win, and you want to win for a guy like this." Ville Lano. No. It's 2011.
With his amazing 0-goal season.
Doesn't mean he didn't try to win.
It's gotta be Brad Boys.
It was not Bright Boys.
wow.
It's a throwback.
Ryan Miller.
No. Give me something, Mike.
Um,
Can you name a player from the 2011 Sabres?
Try to think.
The Palmerville?
Drew Stafford.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
Which is
New
funny 'cause
Jersey Devils,
We just
Drew
played
Stafford.
the Devils, what,
Mhm.
yesterday?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last
So,
night.
yeah,
I
it's
always
kind of
loved
funny.
Drew Stafford.
But anyways,
Not me.
there's a lot of...
I loved him in contract years.
It's the thing that,
Sure.
that cup in 3 years was on the heels of supposed to be on the backs of Ville Lano and Brad Boys. Think
Yeah.
about that. That was their big moves back then.
Look at this. Look at the way
Christian Ehrhoff.
Luke
Steve
Adams.
Ehrhoff,
Look at the
yeah.
way Luke Adams started out in
And Steve
Europe
Bernier
that year.
and wait,
Luke
that's
Adam
too
was
late.
our rising star.
Luke Adams
no,
was
he-
so
he
good
was-
in
he
Europe,
was
and
in
then
the
he came back to
All-Star
the
game that year.
States and was not
I wouldn't
good.
mind seeing Luke Adam on Jack Eichel's wing.
Hmm.
He could shoot it. He had a shot.
Yeah.
And no one feed him the puck, though.
Jack doesn't have to look at that wing anymore.
Yeah. I don't know. It's one of those things where it's the devil's advocate.
Sure.
Like, I'm that guy.
No, you're
when it comes to
100%
Sabres.
right.
And it's sell me something. Sell me something that's not. Make a move. Do something. Like peel off rip the Band-Aid off and just let it bleed. If you're gonna do something, fuck it. Just let it go.
I saw a comment on Facebook today that said, at the end of the year, take Jack Eichel and a first-round pick and trade them both to who wins the draft lottery. And that's a big move that they should do.
Yeah. Mhm.
Right.
That'll work.
That always works.
But,
Now Yakupov. anybody.
I want to go back to what you said about Botterill. I do like the way he's building, but I wish he would call someone up, like Olofsson. And I think the deadline coming up Monday, I think on this team you can see addition by subtraction.
Yeah.
If you could sell Palmerville to a playoff team,
Yep.
like he's a third, fourth line guy, plays great two-way hockey, can score in your power play, trade him for a bag of pucks, and then bring up someone from Rochester.
Mm-hmm.
If you could sell Sabaka to a team looking for a defensive player that might be good in a new scene,
They have to move defensemen. They brought Nelson back up. Now they have 9 NHL
and
defensemen.
they played Boyu past
They have
one
not played
game
Beaulieu.
since he requested the trade.
He's played 1 game since that came out, I believe.
So your addition by subtraction. When was the last time the Buffalo Sabres did that?
Okay, I don't
That you would think they literally sold somebody for way more than they were, or way
Rob
way
Wade,
less.
Rob Wade of the Senators.
No, I was going to say Would it?
Chris Gratton?
No.
I like Gostad, but he got a first for that.
I would literally tell you that
Regier got a first for Gostad.
You're looking way too far back.
Oh, last year?
Yeah.
The O'Reilly deal?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that depends on what you think O'Reilly. I mean,
That depends on
so far
for
so
me.
good.
For me, that depends on Tage Thompson. 100% for me.
and it could
Okay.
be, yeah. And there is a draft pick now coming because the
They're
Blues
going
are
to
in
make
the
the
playoffs.
playoffs. Yes.
Yeah.
And why are they in the playoffs?
Because they have Ryan O'Reilly.
Okay.
He's helped them out. No, absolutely, he has. What I think O'Reilly and Leonard were the guys that weren't going to work here and now work somewhere else, and that pisses everybody off. But hi, Matty Run. But ultimately, it's going like it's just what it is, right? Like just things had ran their course, kind of like with Evander Kane too, where I think you may have sold high on Evander Kane. But O'Reilly and Leonard just weren't, the environment turned, and it just wasn't going to ever be successful here. And so far, so good with it. I'm not saying in 3 years that Ryan O'Reilly is going to be holding the Stanley Cup in St. Louis, but he's doing fine right now.
I think it's why maybe you've seen Pominville back with Skinner and Eichel, just to showcase him that he can play with guys. He can put the puck in that
Didn't
still.
even play a full game.
He played two
Game and a
two
half.
games.
Game and a half. It went back to Reinhardt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
panic move. But I'm just curious to see what happens on Dealine Day. I think you can get addition by subtraction, call somebody up like the guy can play. You can see it. Put him on the fucking team. Let him play with Jack because he's going to score more goals than Jack Eichel. Like,
I think the problem is outside of Pominville. Is there a market for Sabotka?
You can trade Doug Way to a team in the playoffs. You can trade. People are looking for veteran players that have been through playoff runs. You can sell that. He's been through multiple playoff runs.
You could sell
Trade Mike
Pominville as a favor to him.
He's a
you know what I
two-way-
mean?
he's a two-way
That
guy.
sounds so bad, but
Brian
like
Flynn
if you
fetched a
trade,
draft pick.
yeah, if you trade Pominville as a favor to him, like, look, man, we appreciate go make a cup run with, whomever, Tampa or whatever. Go make a cup run with Nashville. That's a favor to him in a lot of ways. And another guy, and I'm not trying to make a hard pivot, does Ryan Miller move at the deadline? 39 years old. Does he maybe get a chance? He's a UFA. Does he maybe get a chance to go back up at a cup contender? That'd be awesome. I'd love if Miller went to like Tampa and got to play behind Vasilevsky and like have a chance at a cup. But that's,
Palmer doesn't make sense to me because he can kill penalties. He's a two-way forward and can put pucks in the net. That's what you want. You can look at, and he's got playoff experience.
and a UFA, so that fits the Sabres. He's going to leave for nothing in July anyway.
Train him
so.
future considerations.
I got you.
Or a 7th round pick.
I was going to give you a pop quiz, but I think we know the answer.
I'm in.
So obviously, shot percentage is something like yards per rush in the NFL. Doesn't really mean much. But who has the second best shot percentage after Skinner on the team?
Well, because we've been talking about him.
Yeah,
Probably Pominville.
it's Jason Pominville by a mile.
Yeah.
Well, not a mile. 13.5 versus. I mean, we're not going to talk C.J. Smith because he's shot 4 times, 9 times, 8 times, 16 times.
And 2 of them
Reinhardt
were
is
in.
11.1, but Pominville's 13.5, which is high.
Yeah.
Like that is high.
Yeah.
It's pretty good for an NHL player.
It's very good for an
That's
NHL
better
player.
than 1 out of every 8.
Yeah, I mean that's fantastic. That's really good.
So
Anybody-
he hasn't been shooting since November then.
Yeah,
Pretty
well,
much.
no, yeah.
he
Yeah,
has-
that's gotta-
he
He's
has
on
been.
lines that don't produce
It
offense.
depends on the lines, exactly. Like it depends on the line he's on.
Just saying.
Yeah, but
Do you guys are there any CJ Smith fans in this room? Because I don't see it. He skates fast. Thanks.
I raised my hand and Justin just
so did
piped
Justin
me
do
right
it.
down because of what I said in the Slack
I'm
chat.
with you, Steve.
He moves and he has scored. The goals he scored have been nice. The back door, like he showed that he could execute an odd man rush, which his
He
team
can tap a puck
several
in.
times. How many times did the Sabres on an odd man rush not even get the pass to somebody?
People don't
Let's
go to the
be
net
real.
on this team. I don't know if
Yeah,
I like Smith or
100%.
dislike
So
that he
we got
gives a
this
shit.
guy that can complete tap-ins, but no one get the puck to him.
The Sabres get a 3-on-2, and listen, I love Eichel, I love Skinner. They'll get a 3-on-2 with like Eichel, Skinner, and Risto, and the puck ends up in the corner. Like,
Yeah, that not even.
what are we doing?
No shot, no pass.
Correct.
Nothing happens.
The puck just ends up
Yeah.
fluttering
You
off into
can't
space.
do that.
Just
Like
ridiculous.
CJ Smith might never be more than a third line winger, but he skates hard, he goes to the net, and he does something that very few players on this team do, which is get to high traffic areas and make things happen.
Or he
he
sits
might
in the
never
press
be a
box.
30-goal scorer on this team, and that's okay.
Or he sits in the press box.
Or he
That's
sits in the
the
press
other
box
option.
watching Matt
Instead,
Hunley
he
play
could either
defense,
drive the net
learning what he
or
can
sit
from
and
the
watch
great
from
legend
above the
Gary
ice.
If you
Matt
have a
Hunley.
third line player that's a 30-goal scorer, he's not a third line player.
Well,
for
yes.
long.
Well, yeah.
I'm saying I think third line might be his seat.
But then again, Buffalo sports fans do generally kind of expect overachievement like
we
that.
expect our captain to be a 500-point player, apparently, because a 90-point pace from Jack isn't good enough to get him off the ire when his team lost by 3 goals. And because he hit the side of the net one
The thing
time.
is, the thing for CJ Smith with me is I don't see it right away. Like when I look at someone like Olofsson, I see it.
But
To
you
see
don't.
someone
But you
like
haven't seen him
Asplund,
in the NHL.
I can
to know.
see it. Well,
But
no,
you haven't seen it in the NHL.
when you
to
see
know.
a player, you see why you would draft him. You can see like, okay,
Yeah,
I
but
get
but let me be honest. I went
just
to
don't-
Rochester a couple weeks ago. 2 of the best players on the ice, and I'm hands down Remy Ellie and Matt Tennyson, because against AHL talent,
They're monsters.
they were monsters. Remy Ellie was playing top 6 minutes, and rightfully so, because he was phenomenal. Matt Tennyson made 3 straight plays on a power play with the puck. He's the top power play defenseman because Redmond was out. Made 3 straight plays that were outstanding. A pinch to keep it in, a pass over, and then a shot that he was looking for the deflection and got it. 3 straight times he touched the puck, and it was amazing. But against AHL talent. And I love Olsen and I love Asplund, but there's no saying when they come up here that they're going to show
Smith
that.
was absolutely disgusting in the AHL. He was putting points up left and right.
He's leading the team in points.
Yeah.
He's up in.
He had a bad game in New Jersey. He had 3 turnovers in like 2 shifts in the third period.
But I'm still willing to. I think
I'm not.
I would rather.
I'm not saying give up on the guy. I just don't see it yet. That's all I'm
believing that I
saying.
do that we are not going to make the playoffs this season unless something turns around tomorrow. I would rather spend the rest of the season debating whether or not CJ Smith is going to be a top 6 forward on this
Just play
team
the babies.
than watching Vladimir Saboka take defensive zone draws.
Right.
That's-
Why do you care at this point? Somebody like Saboka who's getting overtime minutes because he can win you a face-off. Like,
But he doesn't.
stop. Yeah.
42%
Just stop
of his own
doing that. Yeah, but in the great Phil Housley's mind, that's why you put him out there in overtime. He shouldn't even see the ice, but that's besides the point. Play all these young guys. Like, we complain about what it is that this team is. Just put seriously, just put them all together at this point. Let the young kids come up.
How's that working for Carolina?
Put middle
Great.
better. Well, they're
Very well.
they're
that
getting mad at John Cherry, but otherwise everything was working out fine.
Don
So,
Cherry's getting very mad at them.
Yeah. Well, they're making
Those
t-shirts.
great shirts.
so-
No, it was great.
Did you see that
What did it
someone
say?
offered Brian Burke's son? If someone gave $1,000 to charity, Brian Burke's son said that he would hand deliver a shirt to his dad.
Yeah. It is funny. That's a whole nother story.
John
We don't
Cherry
need to
won
go
on
down.
Hockey Night in Canada and said, Carolina, the jerk star called. They're running out of you. Yeah, sorry, I'm a little far away from that
That's
microphone.
okay.
My bad.
You're just so excited about it.
Sorry.
Yeah, like we need to just get to the point where the old guys are taking 8 minutes a game and they're all together. And they just I'm very curious to see what comes out of this trade deadline because anything at this point you might as well see what your CJ Smiths and your Tage Thompsons and your Evan Rodriguez like what are they going to give us here?
It depends on if they think if they're really trying to make a push to the playoffs still. That's what it matters. That's what it depends on. Depends
You've
on.
been past. You've lost it. Like it's
I
gone.
don't think it's
gone.
It's out of the realm possibility, in my opinion. They got to go on a streak.
Even if realistically, even if there is a shot at even any shot at the playoffs, maybe realistically it's better that you take a look at what your future could hold and what you have in the system and what you have on your roster.
And
right
that's
now.
what I think you can see addition by subtraction.
I think the attitude here, like just this is a very broad stroke. Oh, better to lose with the kids than, lose with these guys. We have to realize that it's a very real possibility that they could win with the kids. Right? Like that's the other part here. Like you were saying, Mike, and I'm not discounting your point, but hey, let's just see what they have. If the season doesn't matter anyway, let's find out what they have. There is nothing saying that they don't bring these guys up and go on a 5-game win streak because these guys are skating better than making decisions. But I don't know, but like it always seems like that's not a possibility. Like, just lose with the kids and see what you have. The possibility you win with them.
Right. And that's why you don't keep the kids when you bring them up in the press box.
Right.
I mean, it's that to me, like that the concept of just bringing somebody up. Why would you bring up a guy like CJ Smith and have him sit in the press box? Where if you're not going to play him, just have him have him play in Rochester. Like they're, it's stupid. It is absolutely ridiculous.
I hope Botterill just totally money balls Housley. Keep playing Sabaka, I'm gonna trade him.
I mean, houses. I think the room is in some sort of agreement that Housley has to go, right?
Yes.
I do think that.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a good coach.
Like,
at all.
why?
It
What reason is there to keep him?
It becomes more and more obvious that he needs to go every game, basically.
I can understand. I kind of understand putting Hunwick with Dealine because anybody put Dealine gets better. Their analytics go up.
Even Scandella?
Even I can't.
I mean,
say yes.
I don't want to bring. You're going to say anybody.
I think it's just trying to put Hunwick as someone that can help Hunwick and put him in a better position.
Yeah.
I don't hate the move. I don't hate it. I understand what he's trying to do there.
Sure.
That's all I'm saying.
And,
But
and
I don't
Hunwick hasn't
like-
played in ages, and like it's there's a reason why.
He makes terrible
hurt,
lines.
but
I don't like him as a coach.
and it's the lack of consistency, and like when he does make a huge change, then it lasts 2 periods. What was that? The one game a few weeks ago where
Yeah.
it was like the biggest change that he had
And then
made, and then
Jack-
third period we're back
Yeah.
to Jack Skinner and what, Reinhardt, right?
It was the Carolina game, wasn't it?
I think that's right. That sounds right.
What's the game you were at?
Minnesota.
Oh, Minnesota.
I went to the Minnesota game. Yeah.
Okay. Well, close to the Carolina game.
Anybody else got any
Minnesota,
thoughts
Carolina.
on the Sabres?
No, it's depressing. This is Bill's trying to throw out Derek Anderson at quarterback at this point. Like, what are we doing? Why are we doing this to ourselves? This sucks. I hate everything. I don't know. I've completely checked out on this team again this year.
Do you think we overestimated what this team was at the beginning of the season?
I think for sure they're playing outside their skill level. They're playing
Yeah,
harder.
even-
They were creating the puck luck we talked about earlier because they were grinding harder. I don't
and
see that
even
anymore.
Even in losses, the effort was better. The execution looked a little like a young team at times, but it looked a lot better. It looked a lot more promising, and it's just not there anymore.
Yeah, when they got down a goal or two, you saw we're gonna fucking come back from this, and you don't see that at all anymore.
And with having the young team, we're 50, 60
That's not an
games,
excuse anymore.
60 games into but is it not an excuse because these kids have not played that many games in their career ever? Like, how many times within like a season, quote unquote, how many games did Dealine play? Did he ever play 82 games?
No,
No. And did has Middlestat ever played 82 games in a
Kyle's
season?
just got a
before?
very short season.
Exactly. So you get to a certain point where these players, even though they're 20, 19, 21 years old, they get burned out fast. It's going to happen. You can do everything you can to try and get your endurance up,
That's
but
very
you
true.
are going to get to a certain
The serious
point
toll on your
where these
body.
rookies just fall off.
And I think it's focus too. I think at that age when
sure.
you're younger,
It's a mental
It's
thing.
so hard to
Making all that
100%.
money.
focus. You're making all that money. You're getting all that attention in a big city, and
Well, big city.
relatively speaking, I mean,
Buffalo is what, the 50th largest media market in the country? Is that what it is?
Somewhere around there.
Big
Yeah.
hockey market.
I think it's
It's the second biggest hockey market if you look at the All-Star game.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it's the smallest U.S. media market in the NHL, I believe.
Oh yeah,
I
it
believe-
is. But like the
I
I
biggest
believe
hockey-
Raleigh's bigger.
small
so.
but biggest.
Yeah, Raleigh's not bigger. But
But point is that there's a city that people will recognize you in. Was kind of what I was going with on that. But thanks for completely derailing. me.
Roger that.
What a train wreck. Anyway,
hey,
yeah. So it just all of a sudden you're gonna hit this wall. Like you see it at all levels. I see it being somewhat involved now with youth hockey with my kid going in. Like I see him lose focus after 45 minutes. Like I know that you have more energy, but you just lose focus. It's obviously not to that extent, but until you're 35 and your body basically abandons you and you have the mental focus, but you don't have the physical ability to keep going through, it just seems like there's such a small happy medium where these guys can be successful. And that's what makes players like a Jack Eichel successful, is that I think they actually are, he's got that mental focus. I see it with him. I see it with a guy like Skinner. I see it with a guy like Pominville. It's not really anywhere else on the team right now.
although some people might tell you that Eichel just does
If you
not.
would just put the
go-
puck in the net a little bit more,
I mean, he
gosh
should
darn
play
it.
60 minutes a game is what he should be doing.
I had a lot of fun on the Facebook.com last night with some of the
Sabres?
I
fan
mean,
groups.
we are running a little late. It is,
We are.
We still got to talk
But-
about bandits.
But just let's. What'd you talk about on Facebook.com?
No, there was just somebody that was complaining about Eichel missing the net again, and I lured him in, thinking that he agreed with me. He was actually disappointed that they had to sign him for longer than 1 year. That was a real thing that I saw. Was I wish we didn't have to sign him for more than a year, but we had to rebuild the team somewhere.
I saw
And basically, then I did the Happy Gilmore rant.
I saw a post on Twitter.com that said why are we paying the ninth highest? He's ninth, right, in terms of
Ninth
salary
highest per year salary.
per year,
yeah.
and he's only the 26th person in points per game.
Hey,
Like, why?
It's just good math.
One thing you got to remember too.
He
is
should be ninth.
One thing you got to remember is that
Fuck out of here.
is that he is the only player on this team. Him and Skinner are the only line you have to defend. There's not a dual line threat. You focus all attention on that line, and you shut down the Sabres. You clogged.
And they still produce, which is
Yeah,
crazy.
I was going to
Still
say,
produce.
look what they're doing. Reinhardt's already passed his career high in points. Skinner's about to have 40.
If you can get Middlestat with some
Jackson
skilled
Bentley.
wingers,
And
that you got to fear.
Eichel's got 90 points. Like, what do you want to do? They can't shut it down. That's the thing.
There's I shouldn't even say it because I don't know the name, but there's a well-known TSN analyst who said at the start of the year said that he thinks right now that Jack Eichel is more of a franchise player than Austin Matthews is.
Well, there's
mean,
more well spread out in.
just
Yeah,
imagine-
he's
Define
more of a
franchise
cornerstone.
We said
because
it on this
Toronto
podcast.
now you have so many guys.
Tavares is still the most
Marner
important
might
player,
not be
I
there
think,
much
on
longer.
Toronto.
Marner may not be there much longer.
Man, if only someone would offer sheet that guy.
Well,
What is that? Never heard
Not
of it.
something you can do.
I don't know. Ask Dustin Penner.
Dustin Penner.
You guys remember the time that Philadelphia offer sheeted Shea Weber? That
Was it like a 14? Was it like a $14 million deal?
It was incredible.
14-year deal.
14 years
100 plus
it was,
mil.
Do you remember the time that no one even had to, but the Islanders still signed Rick DiPietro for 72
Yeah, that
years?
is so
15
much
years?
worse.
15 years, yeah.
The
That is
worst
the
offer
Bobby
sheet
Bonilla
ever.
of hockey contracts.
He's still getting paid, I'm sure.
Oh, he's still getting paid.
Isn't he? I think he's an analyst for their TVs.
We brought this up on the podcast, the Slack chat one time. It was like, it's,
So, former Buffalo Sabre Chris Gratton was offer sheeted once.
oh yeah,
And also was used to acquire what player?
Was it Briere?
Danny Briere,
Yeah, yeah.
correct.
The Flyers actually did that, Jeff.
That sounds dumb.
4 first-round picks.
Four
that
first-round
turned in
picks.
Renberg and Dykhouse, but it was traded back.
you watch it.
It was very weird. But
Shut
I saw that. I'm like,
filthy
Chris
mouth.
Gratton, I got to bring that up. But Fedorov was also offer sheeted, which is weird.
Sergey?
Yeah, Sergey.
No.
Yeah, no.
His cousin.
Vladimir. Who was the last person to be offer sheeted? Happened in 2013.
Shea Weber, right?
No, that was 2012.
Oh. What team?
Yeah, give me a team.
The Flames offer sheet O'Reilly.
Boom. Yeah. Ryan
Yeah,
O'Reilly
that's
was
right.
offer sheeted. He was the last player to be offer
Good
sheeted.
one. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Gotta get that Lady Bing.
I know we talked about Steve Bernier earlier. He was also offer sheeted.
So the deadline next Monday. We'll do a show next Monday because of the deadline.
Biggest move Monday.
So let's
Biggest move Monday will be the Sabres signing Jeff Skinner.
Okay, so I like that.
Gonna
I like
happen.
it.
It's been dead quiet on that
They're
front.
gonna-
So something's gonna happen.
Let's shout out to my
But my
buddy
thing
Eric
is-
who says that's how they're
Now,
going
I'm
to quell the
not gonna
critics.
actually predict who they're gonna trade for, but let's predict who's gonna be off the team. Was real quick, and then we'll go to Bandits.
Nate Bulio. Number
Yep.
one.
Be gone.
Gone.
Well,
Yep.
he doesn't want to
Well,
play here. They'll get whatever they can for him.
I think he wants to play, but they're not playing him.
I think that also Pominville's gone.
I think that train's probably already passed.
I have another one. Alex Nylander.
I don't think so. Bill,
24 points in 43 games.
Oh, I don't think they're making an NHL trade.
yeah, I think it'd be Rochester
I thought
Depth.
Nylander.
Nope. I think they may make an AHL trade. I don't think it would be to the Nylander's level.
Carlo Koliakovo.
I think they're doing, I think they're doing a hockey trade where they, like
He's hurt.
whoever it is.
They're trying to do something
playing very
to
well.
bolster Rochester.
Right, because I think they'll make a do good deal and try and get them a little bit more for the
good
postseason.
deal.
Jerry Delamico.
But yeah, Jody Gage is coming out of town.
Exactly.
But yeah, no, that's I don't think they're going to make an NHL trade. I don't think they will be involved in one trade.
I'm taking a look at the list here, and I think if anybody goes, it's probably Jason Pominville.
Do they get out of Monday with 3 first-round picks still?
Yeah,
Yeah, they're going to keep them.
Well, yeah, because they're not going to.
yeah.
I think they
There's
trade
no
him.
reason to
the
trade
pick.
them before the draft. If
I
you're-
think there's a million reasons to trade them.
I think if it means getting rid of Sabaka, I'll do it.
trade
or
if you could
Scandella.
make a deal for a depth player and you condition the pick to be the last of the first-round pick, whatever the last one is, great.
If you can get rid of a Scandella or Sabaka with that first round pick, I would do it. I think they will. I think they can. I think
Addition
well,
by subtraction. yeah.
Right, but are they trading to get better or trading to get better in the future?
well, I
Do you
think
think they're in the position where, they're in 10th right now? 10th?
11th now with
11th?
the Flyers.
Are they trying to get to 8, or are they trying to get to 8 next year?
I'm trying to get 8 next year. At this point, I think Palmerville's gone though. I'm with
I'd say Palmerville.
Yeah, I can see him gone.
Palmerville and Boyu feel like the safer bets to me. I wouldn't be shocked if maybe Gergensons is gone.
He's at RFA.
I prepare yourself to be disappointed in whatever. You
the
see.
trade
because
deadline
I think
isn't
all
what it
these.
used to
I don't
be.
expect anything huge
Like,
to happen
I don't
at
know
all.
what you're getting. Why are you giving away a first round pick to give away Vladimir Sabaka?
That was probably. I think about that now. That was a dumb.
yeah,
thing.
like
That was
that's
a dumb
stupid.
take.
And Pominville,
Well,
I
unless
think-
something
I don't
unless
know,
something
it's
coming
quickly
back
hot
that's a
taking
top 6
himself.
forward or something.
you're not
If it-
getting a top
But that's
6
the only
forward
way
for
you
a
get
first
that.
round pick in Vladimir Sabaka.
Yeah, I
You're
was
not
thinking-
Part
going
of a
to.
package,
I,
though?
I will bet you
All right,
$100
so how about
that's
Sabaka?
not happening.
How about
tomorrow.
Sabaka first and a prospect? Like if you trade Sabaka a first and Borgen
For
and
what,
you
a
get
second round or second line wing?
Charlie Coyle.
I hear Wade
Okay, I
Simmons.
guess. I don't know. Charlie Coyle's not making this team any better.
I'm prepared to
It's
be.
not making this team
You
any
don't think
better.
so?
No, I don't. I
think
don't know why
I think it
everybody's
would.
still. Charlie Coyle, who would center him? Middlestat?
I
So
thought
you're
he
going
was
to
a
go
center.
Middlestat, Sheary, and Coyle?
Sign me up.
Not at
I think
that
Coyle's a
price, I don't know.
finisher. I think Coyle's a finisher.
Maybe. I don't see it. I think that everybody's
I'm prepared to be very underwhelmed. I don't expect
overestimating the
anything.
talent on
We're
this
gonna
team.
talk
right
about
now.
I'm
minor
more
league
excited
deals
for
on Monday.
Bobrovsky, Panarin, like that whole saga. I'm
Sabres
excited
are
for.
trading for
When they go to
Panarin.
Florida.
There's a Skinner Panarin swap.
No,
No,
That was a total joke.
Boy, wouldn't that be something?
I would love
That'll
Panarin.
be a thing.
Panarin's so fucking good.
Yeah, and he will
Trade
not.
all
He
three-
won't resign here for anything.
They're going to Florida.
you
They're
do-
going
Florida,
to
it's
be the
already done.
Panthers.
If you could do a
They
sign-
vacation there as like their families vacation together in South Florida. That is where they are going to play.
and Luongo's going to the Blue Jackets.
Luongo is going to be. I like the idea of him going to the Senators and being like the drawing card for the Senators as a.
Come see
Slowly-
Roberto Luongo face this barrage of 75 shots because he traded Stones, Dzingel,
Chicago
and
has
Duchesne to
Chicago has
Calgary.
8 goals tonight.
Or to,
Yeah,
sorry, to
Ottawa.
Winnipeg for
Luongo.
Laine.
Oh, Ottawa.
Watch Laine and Luongo face 18 men. Come to Ottawa.
Laine.
$10 tickets Tuesdays. Tuesdays.
Jeff's just going. This is great.
Welcome to Canada.
Welcome to Canada.
So we'll wrap up the Sabres talk and get over some Bandits here. We'll
Yeah,
a-
talk about something
we're-
that depresses me way less.
Let's take a real quick break though.
Before we come into our next segment here, just wanted to take this time to remind you where you can find us. You can find our podcast wherever podcasts are found, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Podbean, on our website at 716sportspodcast.com. And you can follow us on Facebook, 716 Sports Podcast, on Twitter at 716 Sport Podcast. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. Let us know what you think. Send us a review, and we'll get new podcasts out to you here weekly and coming again soon. Let's talk about something that depresses me way less than the Buffalo Sabres. And if you're looking for the best team or the hottest team in Buffalo sports right now, I think a solid contender also plays at the KeyBank Center. The Buffalo Bandits coming in like a house of fire, coming in off a win against Western, leading Calgary 12-10 on Saturday night. And a game that, we talked about it off microphone earlier, one of the better games we've seen in that building of late, in a game that they had to earn the victory, but the resolve of the team was tested, and they came through in flying colors.
It's funny because I was standing outside the coach's room, and Rusty Kruger, the assistant coach, came out, and he gave me a whew, like, whoa. I'm like, entertainment value? That game was outstanding. And that was a revelation for him because his whole night was spent behind the bench shitting a brick. Not because it was so intense. To be clear, the Bandits did not lead until 10-9. So they were playing catch up the whole game. They went down 2-0 on Calgary's first shots. But it was interesting to talk to players and coaches after the game and watch them when you talked about how entertaining it was from a fan's perspective. Because for them, it was stressful. And that's okay because this is the kind of win that builds the character. This is the kind of close games you're going to get into the playoffs. All the cliches, but they're true. This is the kind of game you played against a good team, against a really good goaltender. You came from behind, and ultimately you flexed your muscle, and you won a big game.
All right, and you mentioned something too that was said is that feels like the game that over the last couple seasons, that Bandits team getting off to that start, they're down 4 or 5-0 early on in that game before they start to turn it around. They did not allow themselves to dig that kind of hole, and part of it is what appears to be a team that really bonds together and came through. The defense, I love how the defense and Vino talk after every goal, and they stand there and they watch on the Jumbotron like, all right, here's what we'll do again. And they just never seem to panic. It seems like in the past they would start to panic, and there was no panic at all on that bench on Saturday.
Well, ironically, after the 2 goals they gave up early, defense and tranny is what brought them back into the game. No forward had more than 4 points for Buffalo. No player did, but Priolo with 2 huge goals, McKay contributing. Overall, it wasn't the offense, the high-powered offense that won them the game. So, yeah, defensively they had some lapses. You mentioned how frustrated Vino was. Vince was really mad after those first 2 goals went in. Neither one was a very good goal, and it just kind of felt deflated in there. You know, fans are all amped up, and all of a sudden it's 2-0 on the first 2 shots, but that wasn't the tale of the rest of the game. They didn't go down 4 or 5-0. And ultimately I said, you know, they didn't play well. And there's been a couple times this year where they didn't play well. They're just so talented from top to bottom. They now have the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th overall picks from this last year's draft. But they are so talented. And in any sport, if you have enough talent, it can cover a multitude of issues, and that's kind of what's been happening for them.
And this is an offense that's been playing without Josh Byrne now for a more extended period of time, and they are still finding ways to create that offense, even though it feels like they're very heavy on the left side. There's just enough with whether it's Dane or Frazier or Durston or Evans, like all these guys are just, there's so much creativity on the offense, and you kind of feel the influences that John Tavares has had on the creation of this offense, running those 6-man plays, getting Vins off the floor and back on to run an extra player to set the play. Yep. Running Dane on top instead of Foley on the left side to create different angles and plays. Using Hogarth and Frazier to the front of the net, letting Durston kind of work down below the goal line. And they just seem to throw so much at opposing defenses and goaltending that their defense and goaltending does enough to eventually the levee breaks and the goals start going in. And when they start doing, and that offense gets rolling, there hasn't been a team since that Toronto game, the start of the home season, that anyone has been able to keep up with them in that building.
Yeah, you mentioned Frazier, and he's the one I think about right now. That shorthanded goal. So the Bandits were shorthanded for 5 minutes, and I believe it was on the major that this happened. And they did give up 1, but that's not a big deal on a major. But Frazier just ripped a shot from the restraining line, and Christian Del Bianco is no slouch. He's 21 years old, just went 1st overall in the WLA draft. Strange for that to be a goaltender, but he goes to his hometown team. This kid is legit. He is phenomenal. I mean, you think about the guys that he beat out for a job in Chiliano, who was, you know, the second coming behind Poulin in Calgary, regardless. This guy is unbelievable, and they beat him. They found ways to score. Interestingly enough, you talked about the creativity of the offense, and for the season, that has 100% been true. This past game, Coach Tavares said he knew where shots were coming from. He was disappointed. He said it was 1 to 2 pass offense, and he said, I could predict who was going to take the shot. And when I can predict it, so can they. But that didn't matter because they scored in transition, or they scored on the power play, or they did score on offensive sets. But throughout the year, you are right. The offense the ball's been hot. Corey Small in the quick stick, or Durston with some crazy move between a couple defenders. Dane Smith doing the shimmy shake. They've been finding really creative ways to score. But what a testament for a team that finished last in the last 2 years, because they would get down and they'd get behind, and then that was that. All of a sudden, that if you needed evidence that they're not the same team, there it was on Saturday.
I remember being in the building for a game, I believe it was 2 seasons ago, when Calgary came in and we went up big on them early, and then Calgary came back in that game and won in our building, and that just felt deflating, and it felt so good to be on the other side of that game. And I know the offense, you talk about the transition of the defense being so key in that game. 2 things. Who knew that Steve Priolo had that move in his bag of tricks to score that beautiful backhand SportsCenter top 10 goal for his second of the night? And the moment that changed the game, I think, irreversibly, was the shot by Calgary that went off the goalpost and came back to midfield that eventually led to the goal by O'Connor, who's coming on really nicely as the season's gone on. And him and McKay being so key in that game, and just kind of giving that extra little spark of creativity to an offense that Tavares would say didn't have it to the degree he wanted.
I think part of it, this team has, the game has changed. We've always said that there's kind of 2 ways to play defense in the NLL. You either pack it in and don't give up the middle and keep everything outside, or you play aggressive and try to get out the other way. And for a long time, Buffalo packed it in. They won championships that way. That was kind of a Kilgore kind of thing. That was Cordingley's kind of thing. And then they made the switch to try to get out and run. And you look at Joey Cupido, you look at Graham Hossack and Brett Gillies, and you got guys that can get up and go. Brad Self, and they kind of revolutionize the game a bit that make transition such a big part of the game. And Buffalo, I think, was trying to do that without the personnel to do so. And now it's funny when you get the 3rd and 4th overall pick, who are both stud athletes. Gilray is 6'4" and runs like the wind, maybe taller. If I discounted you a couple inches, I'm sorry, Matt. And McKay has such an offensive talent. They actually ran him out the front door on purpose in games that Burden didn't play before Cloutier came in. Also worth noting that, Cloutier, the 2nd overall pick, is now a Bandit. But yeah, they now have the personnel to execute the defensive scheme they've wanted to for a long time. And it's really, really good to see them. They play very sound defensively. And then when they get the ball, look out, because it's coming, and it's coming fast.
Sound defensively to the point that they can trade a defenseman for Cloutier and feel comfortable that the remaining personnel in Priolo, Brownell, Weiss, Desnew, those guys are going to hold the fort down, and they did. They got behind in the game, but only allowed 2 goals in the second half to Calgary, which allowed them to finally make that comeback, take the lead 10-9, and then eventually take out that 12-10 victory. It was not easy. Calgary was moving the ball extraordinarily well, making the move side to side, creating open space, making Vino's life very difficult. But the defense, they went back into the locker room, and they were ready, and they were game for what Calgary was bringing to them. And they seemed to come out more physical, shut down Dixon, and do what they had to do.
They did their best on Dixon. Steve Priolo is one of the best defenders in the league, and Dixon put him in the washer. He's so good. But I thought Vince, after those first 2 goals, absolutely slammed the door. There were so many point-blank saves that he had to make, and that's saves that they weren't necessarily getting, and it's nothing against Bouquet or Cosmo or any of these guys. Bouquet's having a great year in New England. Cosmo's one of the best goaltenders to ever play, but Vince is giving them that save, time and time again. That's what you brought him in for. That's what you're hoping for. And, it's frustrating because there's times that he doesn't give them that save and fans get mad. People get mad. It's like, you need to open up your eyes and realize that, that shot came from right in front of him. And if you want him to save it, fine, but I'm not going to die on that hill. But he's been unbelievable. And Saturday, to transition now, Saturday's a huge win to build off of as they had to face Rochester on Friday. A building that there's something, this is not the correct number, 11-24 all time in the Blue Cross Arena, 11-21, 11-22.
Well, I've got a different number, not the Blue Cross specific number. They are 28-40 all time against the Nighthawks in total.
Yeah.
And then, I think 11-24 roughly, give or take.
1-4 in the playoffs, I'm sure
on
of
the
that.
road.
Yeah.
And it just feels like they're so snake bit. We've seen a lot of the best at times, worst at times against Rochester this season. They had the home game where they just, for 60 minutes, absolutely dominated the Nighthawks at KeyBank Center. And that game was as impressive of a victory as I've ever seen in the sport of box lacrosse by a team over another team in terms of just controlling the game from the word go.
Then what happened in the rematch in Rochester?
It was not as pretty.
It's exactly what you just said.
Yeah.
It was one of the most handy beatdowns, one of the best games, but it was on the other side. Austin
Right.
Shanks goes for 6, 5, 6, a lot.
It's like as soon as they walk into that building, it's everything. The records just go completely out the door.
It's funny to watch, like, when I bring it up to Richie, because Richie obviously played and now coached for a very long time. And you bring it up to him, I'm like, the demons of the Blue Cross Arena. And he gets this look in his eyes, like just this glass over look. Like, he's like, if I knew what the reason was, we wouldn't be 11-24 there. Like, there are very literal demons in that Blue Cross Arena for a lot of teams, not just Buffalo. Rochester has always played well there. I don't know if it's the smaller rink. I don't know if it's the turf. I don't know if it's the building, but Buffalo has always struggled there. And now they travel there Friday. And they can't rest on their laurels. Sure, they're in first place, but Toronto's right on their heels.
Yeah, and Toronto, and they did get a little help with Georgia losing to Colorado over the weekend, but there's 3 teams at the top of the East that are just nipping at each other's heels, and you give those teams an inch, they're going to take a mile. I mean, Toronto already had one big victory in Buffalo this year. Georgia's no slouch. There's no weekends off in this conference at all, and beating Calgary is a good step. It's a great step to building this record and building yourselves back towards the playoffs. But the journey doesn't end here. There's still plenty of time left and a lot of games against those top teams in the East that remain for the Bandits before this regular season is concluded.
And no first round bye because 4 teams are going to make the playoffs this year. Last year, first round bye because 3 teams made the playoffs. But I know the league parity is real, but if you have to play in the first round, the 4 seed, which is either looking like it's going to be like New England or Rochester, or you have to play Toronto,
That's a whole different
what's your
world.
choice? You know,
Yeah.
like, or Georgia for that matter, because Georgia won the Cup 2 years ago and is really, if you had to pick your pathway, get that 1 seed and then either play Rochester at home or New England, who for a bit looked pretty legit when they beat Saskatchewan and Georgia in back-to-back weeks, but have since come down to earth. But that first seed in the East, I think, is going to be really important because as much parity as there is in the league,
It does feel like there's a different
you do not
stratosphere
want to play
between 3 and
Toronto
4 this year.
Correct. You do not want to play Toronto or Georgia in the first round of the playoffs.
So big game for the Bandits Friday, trying to go to 9-2
Unreal.
after the last couple seasons.
They had 8
Feels
wins
like
combined over the
Right.
last 2 years or something.
such
So-
strides taken by the new coaching staff, and credit where it's due, and the new players coming in. But another big game. They aren't home for a couple weeks, which is sad.
They
for
come
those
back
of us
home
who-
March 9th.
yeah, March 9th
They're
home
home,
game.
and then they're home again the 23rd and the 30th. Does that sound right?
Yep.
So
the
they-
9th against the Swarm, the 23rd against Toronto, and the 20th of April against the Black
So I
Wolves.
was
So all
way wrong
conference
about the
games
last
left
one.
at home this season.
Yep.
At least until the playoffs.
But
And
that means 5 games on the road, which is not going to be anything easy to do. But it starts with the big one in Roch on Friday that they'll want to pick up another big 2 points on, and been fun. It's been there's been bigger crowds. Like the fans are still kind of they're starting to grab the attention of people. They're rightfully so.
the building
you know?
felt much more alive on Saturday in the crowd than it has the entire season.
Yeah, part of it was the game and part of it was the attendance. But the other
People are
reality
getting
is
re-hyped on it.
they need the coverage. They need people talking about them, and that's what we're doing here because they are playing well and they are a big part of the Buffalo sports scene. And putting the tongue in the cheek a little bit, there's some people upset that the Bandits were on page 11 of Sunday's newspaper, a small column on page 11 of our hometown newspaper, that they were given virtually no attention for being in first place and playing very well.
So part of our slightly later New Year's resolutions here at the podcast is to dedicate more time to the Bandits because we have a lot of people in this room who are season ticket holders, writers, broadcasters for the team, and want to use this as a channel. So if you enjoy the segment, let us know. Be happy to hear you. Take your comments and suggestions for future Bandit segments, but this is something we plan to keep as a staple of this program moving forward. So
Doing a
happy
plug,
to-
I'll be on the radio Friday. Listen in.
follow along to Steve, who will be
we're doing color this Friday. So
doing
check
the official
that
radio
out.
color broadcast.
On what station?
I'm checking 15:20 a.m. Now the problem is
15:20 sounds right.
it's been changing, so that's part of the problem.
roger
But I'm
that.
looking it up right now. So sometimes it's 5:50, sometimes it's 9:30, sometimes
if
it's
Friday,
15:20.
depending on if there's another something else going on there.
You threw me for a whole loop. What
Sorry.
a bum.
That's my bad.
I should know this, and I'm ashamed that I don't. But I'm looking it up right now. I probably had it right. I did. It's on ESPN 15:20, just like I said all along.
Excellent.
Never a doubt.
Well, check Steve out. The game on Friday, AM 15:20.
Yeah.
The right side of the dial. It's pretty right, isn't it? 15:20. It's
Pretty far.
There's not much more AM to go around. So,
Mhm.
hey Justin, should we wrap this thing up? Let's wrap it up.
One last quick thing to find this week before you do. Final Buffalo Beats home game of the regular season is this Saturday against the Boston Pride. We hope to see you all there, and if you can't be there, you can tune in to the official NWHL live feed that will feature myself and good friend and occasional podcast contributor Eric Wolschlager on commentary, and we will be happy to bring you along for the ride wherever you are in the hockey universe. Anything else, gentlemen, to throw in before we put a nice bow on this one?
Nope.
I'll take that as a resounding no. Thank you all for listening. We'll be back here next Monday recapping Sabres trade deadline, Bandits at Rochester, Buttes at Pride. See you soon.